Thank you for listening to ChartYourFi. I'm your host, Chris Elder. I'd like to first off thank you for stopping by and listening to this podcast. This is a financial podcast designed to help military and pretty much anybody else with financial independence. Stand by for the sound of freedom. Hi, and thank you for joining us with ChartYourFi. Today we're going to talk about retired military survivor benefits. First off, I want to start with everyone's situation may be different than others. So you should really do your own research whenever it comes down to financial decisions. As a notice to everybody, I am not a financial expert. This is purely based off of my own research and my experience. You got the Retired Military Survivors Benefit Program. Is it worth 6% of your retirement pay? SBP, let's face it, I never gave SBP even a second thought until I attended this retirement symposium just a little bit ago. And yeah, it got me thinking 6%. Like, is 6% a lot? Well, let's kind of break it down. We got 6%. Let's say I'm gonna retire and make around 3 grand, right? Just shooting from the hip here. So right off the bat, I'm going to be paying $2,400. Now, obviously, the 6% is just going to keep following it up and up and up. Eventually, I'll end up paying like $6,000 a month, which doesn't seem like much, but over a 38-year period, that's $152,000. Let's go ahead and boil this down a little bit more. I'm going to discuss about what is the cost for my family. I'm going to talk about dependency and indemnity compensation, DIC, which the VA offers. I'm going to talk about other options such as the VGLI, which is your Veterans Group Life Insurance, Whole Life, and Term Life. And just talk about those different options as well. And if you hang on, I will kind of tell you what the elder family is going to be looking at doing. How much money does SBP really cost? Well, we talked about it. It's going to cost you about $2,600 a month, all the way up to $6,000 about year 38 after you retire, right? So, how did I calculate that? Well, you got to know your retirement pay. So, if you go to the Military Defense Government Calculators High 3 calculator, you can go there and find out what your retirement pay is going to be estimated. Remember, if you're further in the future, it's going to be not an accurate number, but it'll get you pretty close. Once you do find your retirement monthly pay, then use the calculator to figure out your premium payment on actuarydefense.gov. It's a survivor benefits plan. For example, Johnny retires at 39 with 20 years and 11 months in service. His retirement pay is going to be $31.45, and he decides to do the SBP, and he elects to cover his spouse and children at the max 55% of the retirement pay. So that makes his premium $204 a month for the rest of his life. But that 204 raises along with your base pay, because remember, your base pay has got cost of living increases, so that's 6% going to follow it all the way up. With that $204, the 55%, if he were to kick the bucket like the next day, next month or whatever, it'd be $1,704 in today's payments. So out of the $31.45, they would be getting $1,704. The annuity payment will be also following the cost of living increase, because remember, that 1704 is 6% of 3145. So that means 20 years from today, it will be more like 2800. Another awesome option with the SBP is the children only option. You could choose to pay just for your child only, right? And it'll cover up to 18 years old, unless they're still attending high school. They're in an accredited trade school, vocational institute, college, university, something of that nature, right? it'll cover them till they're 22. If there's any previous mentioned schooling options, there's a simple certification process. All they got to do is go to Military One Source and they could find out more information on this. The cost for a 39-year-old male with 2 children is $5 a month. And it could raise with the COLA. I don't know 100% on that, but $5 a month. Seriously, it's like a no brainer. You should definitely take advantage of that if you have younger children. If you're retiring and your children are not in school and they're 19 years old, it's probably not going to be a good choice. There's also this VA program called Dependency and Indemnity Compensation, DIC, right? I may have butchered that indemnity word, so forgive me for that. So it is a program that VA has. The DIC is a benefit paid to eligible survivors of active duty, military, or veterans who died in the line of duty whose death resulted from a service-related injury or disease. This is why it's so important to make sure that even if it's going to be a 0%, that you get your stuff documented when you get out in that entire process. If you have like a knee that's messed up, if you, I don't know, whatever it is, if it's even if it seems small, get it documented in your record because you never know when something like this VA program can help your family out, right? Let's go a little bit further into this program. So the VA will pay for 10 years after death. The payment is tax free. It can be paid to eligible surviving spouse or dependent. And if someone dies on active duty or for training or inactive duty training or dies as a result of a service connected injury or disease, this can be tied to that disability that you had 0% on, and the result was that you were disabled, then DIC can be an option for your family if you were to pass away because of that, right? The amounts vary depending on the spouse and child's situation. It could be anywhere from $600 to $3,100, really, depending on the situation. Children are covered up to 18, or if in a VA approved schooling program, 23. Now that we talked about DIC, let's go into SGLI and VGLI. SGLI, as many of you already know, is for the active duty side, right? Or reserve. If you had SGLI while you were active reserve National Guard, then you can get VGLI, which is Veterans Group Life Insurance. So the rule is that you have to do it within 1 year and or 120 days after getting out. So just make sure that you have your SGLI first before you get out, or else you cannot get VGLI. Terms can be anywhere from 10,000 to 400,000, pretty much based on where your SGLI was at is where your VGLI will stay. You can increase it though every 5 years, $25,000 until you are 60 years old or up to $400,000. Changing beneficiaries could also be done at any time. And also, I did not know this until today, was that you can convert your SGLI, VGLI into a commercial company. You got to check out the VA website for more details without providing any health information. So that could be pretty beneficial. Maybe they have an option where you could go up any higher. Just check that out on the VA website. So what's the cost of VGLI with $400,000 worth of coverage? For 29 below, it is $28 a month. 30 to 34, it's $36 a month. 35 to 39, it's $48 a month. 40 to 44, it's $64 a month. 45 to 49, it's $84 a month. 50 to 54 is $132 a month. 55 to 59 is $240 a month. 60 to 64 is $396 a month. 65 to 69 is $588 a month. And I kind of stopped there. It goes all the way up to 80 plus. And when it gets up there, you're paying like $1,800. So you could see it. It just kind of it gradually grows and grows and grows, right? So VGLI is not one consistent thing like term life would be. It changes. So it's a great option if you don't want to deal with having to hassle with the health screenings or anything like that. Right after you get out of service, they will cover you, no questions asked, but it's not a long term plan. Now, going into term life, and if you listen to anything Dave Ramsey, you hear him talk about term life versus whole life. He does not recommend whole life, he recommends term life. Term life is a low cost insurance option that allows you to have that peace of mind coverage if you pass away, right? The thing is about all insurance, all of this is pretty much you'll never see it when it needs to happen, but your family will have that protection when they need it. Though it is inexpensive for younger and healthier adults, as you get older, it could develop into something a lot more, right? Where you could develop conditions that would make it really hard to renew in the future. So just keep that in mind. Pros: it's inexpensive compared to whole life. Some may not require medical questions. It's going to probably be a higher cost, those that don't require that. They have a guaranteed payout. Some of the cons is if an 18-year-old buys a $500,000 policy for $50 a month for 30 years and are lucky to get all the way to the end of the term, right? $18,000 down the drain. That's just how it is. Term life, it's literally the insurance, just like on your car, on your house. You'll never see a return on it unless, well, you'll never see it. Your family may see it, but you'll never see it. If your term is up and you develop something, this is another big con. If your term is up and you develop something, you could probably be disqualified and may not be able to get covered by the same term again. So keep that in mind. Whole life insurance. It's your money, but is it a good investment? Whole life provides a way to be covered for a term, but also allows you to invest your money at a low guaranteed rate at the same time. For a lot of people that don't have discipline in investing, this sounds like a great option. Sounds like one. And I know some people out there, they do really good with this, but I'm a little on the term side versus whole life side. I just want to get that out there. But I try to be as neutral on this as possible. So, granted, some of the interest rates out there, guarantee like 4.5%, which is amazing. If that's a guaranteed 4.5%, that's pretty good. And whole life offers a lot better of a situation than sticking it into a high yield savings account with only a 0.75% rate. So keep that in mind. Monthly rates are high. For example, a 25-year-old pays about $500 a month for 20 years, collecting $120,000. That $120,000, as it matures, what's going to happen is the scale is going to tip, right? So you may have like $400,000 covered, but at 20 years, 120 of that is going to be your money. And as the value of your money increases, the less the insurance is going to pay out. That's how whole life works until you hit a certain point, and then you have to start pulling out money. But it's your money. So some of the pros is it's your money. It's kind of like a forced savings. The term is a lifetime term. You could also borrow against yourself. I don't know all the ins and outs on borrowing against yourself on it, but I've heard a lot that you can do that. Some may have different fees than others. Just when you sign up for one, if you're going to do a whole life, make sure you pay attention to the contract, because if you're going to borrow money from yourself, you probably should not be paying some other company a high interest rate to replace your money back. So just make sure that you're paying attention to the small little details. Cons. All right. The interest that it gains 4.5%. It's better than a high yield rate or high yield savings rate, and it's above the 2.5 inflation rate. But you could do way better in a mutual fund, anywhere from 8 to 12%. Look at Vanguard, look at Fidelity. There are other options out there. But if you're sold on whole life and you like the fact that it's a savings and a life insurance all rolled in one, I could dig it. Less complication. That's on you. The rule of 72 is something that you need to really think about, though. So with a 4.5%, it would take you 16 years to double your money. The rule of 72 would imply that if you had a 10%, that's in between the mutual funds, right? 10% rate of return, it would only take 7 years for your money to double. That doesn't seem like a lot, except for, let's talk about Tom and Jim. Tom and Jim are both 35-year-old males. Or Tom, he invested $500 a month into whole life insurance at $400,000 coverage with a return rate of 4.5% until the pot reaches $120. So he's putting in $500 a month until he hits $120. Jim, he signed up for a $50 a month term life insurance, but then he took $450 and put it into a mutual fund with a 10% rate of return. So Tom and Jim are paying the same amount of money for the same amount of period of time, because Jim just so happens to stop putting in money at the same time that Tom reaches $120,000. What's the coincidence? So at year 15, Tom, age 49, has $120,000. At the same time, Jim, at year 15, age 49, has $171,000. Now moving on to year 30, they're both 64 years old. Tom only has $232,000, while Jim has $716,000. It's a big jump. Then year 38, at the age of 72, when it's just going to stop for both of them, Tom has $330,000 when Jim has $1.5 million. If you were to use the 4% rule on this, which I don't know if whole life allows you to do the 4% rule, you would only be able to pull $13,000 for Tom, but you'd be able to pull $61,000 from Jim. So what makes sense? Whole life or having a term and then putting it in the mutual fund? And by the way, Jim, he stopped his $400,000 life insurance well before he ever reached year 30, right? So he wasn't paying a metric butt ton. He only ended up wasting what we calculated about $18,000 on life insurance, and he's got a buttload of money. Worked out, right? So now, what makes sense to the elder fam? There's lots of options out there. After sitting down and doing hours of countless research and this podcast, my wife and I decided that this is probably the best path for us. We're going to obviously sign our children up for the SBP children only option with only $5 a month. And if, let's say, I had like a $1,700 annuity that was going to be paid out, it'd be split between my daughter and my son. That makes sense to me. That's easy math. I'm going to convert my SGLI over to my VGLI and stick with that. It's about $48 a month. So I'm at, $53 a month. Not bad. And then just invest the rest in the mutual funds and continue to invest in real estate. Eventually, there's a point in time where you just become your own insurance. So that's kind of what we're looking at for us. I got a bunch of resources. You can check out my blog, And I hope that this kind of helps you either understand a little bit about SBP, the children option, term life and whole life insurance, VGLI, and the DIC. I do appreciate you guys listening. I really could use some help in the comments section. If you like this podcast and it provided any kind of positives in your life or got you thinking about something, hit me up. I'd really like to hear about it. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and also Facebook. We have a Facebook group on there too. So feel free, send me questions. I love these questions. I've been getting quite a few of them now, and I really do appreciate you guys. So, till next time, you guys take care.